Hi everybody, it's Esther here from Balance and Breathe, and this is tonight's webinar in the Recovering You series. Tonight's webinar is on the topic of gratitude, and I'm just checking that the broadcast is coming through to the web page, because if it's not, then you are not going to see me. I think it is. Looks good. This connection's a little slow. Yeah, there I am. Yeah, okay, great. So that's working. So today we're going to be talking about gratitude. Now, we've covered so far, we've covered a lot. In 2 days, we've covered quite a lot on this webinar series. We looked at awareness on Monday. So we looked at awareness of the body, emotions, and the thoughts, and how those three kind of connect to each other to form how we feel about ourselves and about the world, and how we can create the reality that we're living through by being aware of our body's needs, of the emotions that we're experiencing, and being aware of our thoughts. And then yesterday we looked at the yamas and the niyamas. And the yamas, if you remember, were the sort of guidance to help us move beyond the animal instinct in us. And then the niyamas helped us to evolve and become better human beings. And today we're going to be talking about gratitude. And it kind of follows on from the last 2 days, really, because practicing gratitude is an incredibly transformational way to change your mental state. And as we know from the awareness talk on Monday, when you change the thoughts that you're thinking, you change your emotional response to your thoughts, and then you impact on your body. So if you have thoughts of gratitude in your mind instead of thoughts of negativity, then you change your emotional response, you have a positive emotional state, and that leads to improved physical health. And there is research on that that shows that that is in fact the case. I'm going to talk a little more about the benefits of gratitude as we go on with this talk. So one of the reasons why I've chosen to do this in the order that I've done it is because gratitude is in a lot of ways connected to the niyama of santosha, which is contentment. It's an acceptance of how things are, and being able to recognize maybe that things might change, but being able to accept the way that things are. And gratitude fits very much with that. You can look at a situation and see that it could be better, but you can be grateful for the way that where you are right now, and you can live in that state of gratitude as you're moving forward to changing things. And the thing with gratitude is, if you're in a place of positive thinking and gratitude for what you've got, then it's easier to look for the solutions to your problems as we go on. Now, I'm waffling a little bit here, and I don't really know why, because I'd actually decided I've got a PowerPoint presentation, which I did for a previous course that I got actually on my website, which you are going to get some of today. It was called Grow with Gratitude, and I'm going to take you through the presentation, or most of it. I'm going to miss out the first, the title slide. So I'm going to start this presentation, and while I'm watching the presentation, while we're doing the presentation, I'm going to keep an eye on, except I won't be able to, will I? Of course I won't. No. I'm going to have to experiment then. I'd forgotten about this. I'm new to YouTube, and I'm very new to screen sharing on YouTube. So let's see if this is going to work now. I'm going to try sharing my screen. I'm going to have to check what's going on the live showing of the webinar. But we'll see how it goes. So let's go to Let's go to the start of the webinar, and apologies for this. So we're going to start this. So this is Grow with Gratitude, the title screen, and I hope that you can see that now, because I realized that I'm not actually going to be able to check on my screen. You're actually with me. So this is, I wanted to show this to you. This is a before and after. This is to show you how much I've changed through these practices that I'm teaching you, so that you can see that there's very real substance behind my passion and evangelism, and there are very, very powerful reasons why I get so excited about what I talk about. On the left, this rather bedraggled looking woman in the red cardigan and the who is it, Chrissie Hynde hair, the rock and roll hair, is the picture of unhappiness. I'm very, very drunk there. I probably drank an awful lot of that wine that's in front of me. Probably had a few joints, probably very tired. I drove to Southampton that night, and it was very late at this point. I was probably exhausted as well. And then on the right, this is me a couple of years ago after I'd stopped drinking, and once there was a lot of yoga in my life. So you can see here, there's a massive transformation has occurred, and it was all down to yoga and the yoga principles that I've been teaching you on the course of this webinar, and a lot more besides, because obviously I can't fit a year's worth of teaching into a 5-hour webinar series, but I'm doing the best I can. So a little bit about me. Previously, I was always very much a glass half empty kind of person. I mean, it was always, my glass was always empty, mainly because I drank all the wine. And I would drink all the wine until there was no wine left, and then I would wish there was more, but then I would go back to bed. So in 2013, I had a breakdown. And while that breakdown was very painful, because I chose to go to yoga teacher training rather than any kind of counseling, it actually led me to a series of breakthroughs, and it led me to a place of complete healing. And now, of course, I am sober and I am recovered. And more important than any of that, most of the time, I'm an author and a speaker. I forgot about those days. But I'm happy. And this is the point that I want to talk about today. I am happy. And you're going to see on the next slide that there's a lot of reasons why I maybe could be unhappy, but I choose to be happy. And so let's see, why am I happy? My life is far from perfect, and I enjoy my life as it is. I enjoy it. I have less money than I would like, and I have enough to keep the wolf to the door. I don't have enough for expensive holidays, but my bills are paid every month. I don't have that many friends. My social circle shrank quite rapidly when I stopped drinking, partly because other people didn't want to hang out with me anymore, and partly because I realized how quite boring it can be being the only sober person in the room. It can be quite challenging at times. And I don't get to do all the things that I want, and I enjoy pretty much all the things that I do. So I'm generally enjoying what I'm doing in life. I don't have a partner, I'm single, and I love the people I live with. It's me and my little boy and my dog. This is an old, this is my dog, and my son is with my eldest son is with me quite a bit, and I'm happy in my own company. That is a novelty. That is a novelty that has only happened in the last couple of years. There's lots that I don't have in life, but I'm happy. Now, I should have changed that back to an and, because previously, all of these ands were buts. They were but. I'm far from, my life is far from better, but I enjoy my life, and so on. And I realized that actually it's not but, it's and. My life isn't perfect, and I enjoy it. the word but, I found, was actually quite a negative word in those sentences. So I changed it, and instead. But I'm happy. And I'm happy. So why do you think this is? And the subject of the webinar might give you a little bit of a clue there. It's gratitude. So I'm going to come out of the screen share for a moment, because I want to check that this is all working properly. And if there is anybody watching live, I would love if you could put in the comments of your chat box to the right of the webinar screen. I would love if you could put in the chat box what gratitude means to you. And I'm just going to come out of the screen share for just a moment. And show, come out of the screen share, and let's see what's happening with this. So if you are online right now, drop into the chat box what gratitude means to you. And if you're not, then write down when you're watching this, you could jot down what gratitude means to you and have a think about what it means. Okay, it doesn't look as if the screen share is working, which is a shame. So, okay. So anyway, right, let's forget about the screen share then. Oh, I can't come out of this now. What's going on? Sorry, I do know about technology. What's happening? I know. I'm in full screen on the video. Right. Okay. So what does gratitude mean to you? And then we're going to take a look at some definitions of gratitude. So I'm going to come back to the screen share, because you could at least see my screen share. It just wasn't doing quite what I had expected it to do. So if you can see these definitions of gratitude, a feeling of appreciation or thanks is the Merriam-Webster definition of gratitude. The quality of being thankful, showing appreciation for and returning kindness. An affirmation of goodness. We affirm that there are good things in the world and benefits we received. And I love this one, because I just love the fact that this one is talking about that it's not, these two first definitions, they're quite transactional. So somebody does something for you and you thank them. Whereas this one is just an acknowledgement that there are great things in the world and that there are gifts and benefits that we've received, not necessarily from a person, but that could be being grateful for the trees giving us oxygen, or for the rain giving us water to drink, for the seas giving us beautiful marine life. It seems like it feels like it's more of an appreciation for the other things that exist in the world, not just thanking individuals. And I don't seem to have noted down where this one comes from. I don't remember where this one came from, but this too is reflective of this more spiritual definition of gratitude. That it's I think it might actually be from the same person looking at this. That there are things, people, even higher powers such as nature or God or universe, however you choose to define it, that gives us these gifts in our life, and that we acknowledge that and give thanks for that. So that is gratitude. It's recognizing that there are many gifts in the world and we are able to access those gifts if we choose to. So gratitude in yoga, these are the yamas and the niyamas, which you'll remember from yesterday's talk. And gratitude comes under santosha, which is one of the niyamas. And gratitude, santosha is contentment, which is a happy acceptance of the way things are. And being the same, whether things are ostensibly good or ostensibly bad. However things are, it's just an acceptance of how they are. And this is a lovely quote from Khalil Gibran from the Prophet, where he's reminding people that if you're inclined to pray, you very often you pray when you're unhappy, or you pray to ask God for help, you pray when you are in need, but that we should also send up prayers of thanks when things are good and when things are bountiful, and we should always appreciate the good and the bountiful in life. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to cut out a couple of these, and we're going to look at the benefits that you get from gratitude. And there are lots of benefits from gratitude. Having a regular gratitude practice does produce an awful lot of benefits to mental and physical health. I'm guessing that you can see this, the list in front of you. So when you're feeling, if you're living with an attitude of gratitude, then you are able to celebrate success in life. And that means not just, when your big project goes well, or when you get the top grade in your degree, or when you get the new job, but it's being able to celebrate the small wins along the way. So, if you're job hunting, be really grateful for finding a great job to apply for. Be really grateful for having the internet so you can look for jobs. Be really grateful for getting your application finished. Be really grateful that you've got some people who are happy to give you really good references. Be really grateful for all the experiences that you've had up until now that you can use to create a fantastic job application. You can be really grateful for the fact that modern technology means that you've got until the very last minute to get your application in if you're a procrastinator on these things. You can be very grateful for the education that you received that meant that you were qualified to apply for that job. You can be very grateful for your previous boss who gave you the opportunities to learn certain skills and so on. You get the idea. You can find so much to be grateful for even before you get the application in. You can be filled with gratitude for every stage of that job application process. And then you'll feel much more positive about it. And that positivity will come through in your application. If you approach your application, and I mean, this can apply to anything in life. I'm picking on a job application because it was the first thing that popped into my head right now. If you approach your job application from a perspective of gratitude and positivity, you're probably going to write a better job application because you're going to be coming from that place of contentment and appreciation of everything that you are and that you've done, and you can think about really feeling into the gratitude of everything that you are, that means that you're qualified to get that job, and you're going to write a really good application because when you're in that place of gratitude, you exude positivity. And the more you can celebrate success in life, celebrate the little wins. If you're on a diet, if you're trying to lose weight, don't worry about celebrating the weekly weigh-in at Slimming World. Celebrate that time when you didn't you fancied a bar of chocolate and you didn't give in to the craving. Celebrate the fact that you walked to the shop instead of driving or sending somebody else. Celebrate every little thing that you do, every little step that you take towards the goals that you want, and every little win along the way. And you'll enjoy the journey more, and you're probably going to find greater success. Gratitude helps to produce better sleep. If you are worrying about things, and if you're feeling negative and feeling anxious about things, it can be really hard to get to sleep. And that in turn can then lead to increased stress. You lie in bed all night worrying about the fact that you can't sleep, And then the next morning you're really tired because you haven't had enough sleep and your resilience is low, so you get really irritable and you become really stressed throughout the day, and you maybe drink one or too many cups of coffee throughout the day, and then you're really stressed by the end of the day. You might have a couple of glasses of wine and then you can't sleep again, and so on and so forth. But if you stop at any time throughout the day when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling negative, just stop, grab a piece of paper or the notes app in your phone and just write down a couple of things that you're feeling grateful for right now. Even if all it is, you know, there's air around you that you can breathe. If that's as far as you can go with gratitude at that moment, just focus on that. You know, there's air around you that you can breathe that can keep you alive. How amazing is that? So just, you know, anytime you feel that stress overwhelming you, you can write down a few things that you feel grateful for. And if you do that throughout the day, it takes so much stress off you and leaves you in this more positive state of mind. And you will find that when you develop this gratitude practice, you will find that you are able to sleep better because there's less on your mind. There's less worries on your mind at the end of the day. And your brain is becoming trained towards positive thinking. So you don't lie awake, or you know, your brain riffling through the filing cabinet of your mind trying to find all the bad things it can remind you about, because it's not looking for that anymore. One of the most powerful things about a gratitude practice is that it changes the focus on where your brain looks. Our brain, you have about 60,000 thoughts every day. And it is impossible, absolutely impossible for your conscious mind to process them all. I mean, if you tried, you would go completely insane within about 2 hours, probably. So we have all these filters in our brain, and the main filter is known as the reticular activating system. And it's essentially the Facebook algorithm, if you know anything about that. So Facebook looks at what you like, what you don't like, what you comment on, what you share, what you read on various other sites, and it works out what you like. And it shows you more of what you like. And your brain does the same thing. Facebook probably got the idea from how the human brain works, because it's a way to filter information, which is what Facebook algorithm is doing. So your brain, if you are constantly looking at, oh, everything's so terrible, look at this news article, look at this bill, look at this quarrel that I've had, look at this thing that's gone wrong, look at that thing that's gone wrong. If that's your focus throughout the day, if your focus is constantly on all the things that are going wrong, then that's what your brain is going to keep giving you. That's what you're going to notice. You're going to notice the bad things that are happening all the time. But if you focus on the good things, if you make a point of looking for good things to be grateful for, no matter how small, that will gradually train your brain, and you will start, you change the algorithm. I mean, if you were to go onto Facebook and spend a few days liking and commenting on things that are completely out of your area of interest, you would see your Facebook feed change. And it's the same with your brain. You can change the algorithm of your brain just by turning your attention to something else. So what we focus on is what we attract, and Robin Sharma has a great quote, and I can't remember it now, but I quoted it in a blog post that I wrote this morning. And it is basically, it's what you focus on expand, and what you give your attention to, that becomes your destiny. You know, if you are always looking for the negative, then your future is going to be full of negativity. If you look for the positive, that's what you're going to find. And so then I've gone off on a tangent a little bit there, but a very important tangent. So in terms of better sleep, more energy, obviously, if you sleep better, you will have more energy and you will be more focused. You'll be much happier every morning. You'll be able to bounce out of bed filled with joy. Number 3 here is stronger social bonds. So if you think about who would you rather spend the most time with, would you rather spend time with somebody that is full of enthusiasm for life, who's joyful and who delights in every little thing in life? Or would you rather spend time with somebody that spends their whole time complaining. You're more likely probably to want to spend time with somebody that's quite life affirming and cheerful to be around. So people who practice gratitude and who live in a sort of state of gratitude have been found to have better relationships. They have more trust in other people, and so they experience more trust in their life. They have more harmonious relationships, and they have deeper connections with people because they're not always waiting for everything to go wrong, I suspect. This all, of course, leads to increased happiness and optimism. If you're always looking for the positives in life, you're going to find them. If it starts to rain, and instead of looking up at the clouds and thinking, oh, it's raining again, I hate the rain, which is one of the things that I do normally. By about February, I'm round about there. But instead, you can choose to, there's going to be a rainbow after the rain. The rivers are going to be full, and the gardens are going to look green. The mountains where I live, I'm surrounded by hills. They're not really mountains, but after a good dose of rain, they're going to be really green. So you can look for the benefits in everything instead of looking for the reason to be sad. You can be optimistic and be more happy about what's happening around you. The improved physical and mental health. Now, this comes back to what we were talking about on Monday about the connection between the mind and the body. There have been some studies that have shown that people who practice gratitude, I actually linked an article about this in my blog post this morning. People who practice gratitude have been found to have better heart health. They have better resistance to stress, so better mental health. It reduces depression. They tend to have better diets, so they have better weight control. And there was another one. There's all the stress-related illnesses as well. And there was another one, and I can't remember off the top of my head what that was. Now it's gone out of my head. But practicing gratitude has a direct impact on mental health and physical health. So the more you can remain positive and optimistic, the more you are going to improve your overall health. And it sounds crazy when you say it, but it is true. And if you've listened to the Monday's webinar about awareness of the body, the emotions and the thoughts, then you will understand that there is very clear connection between the thoughts that we're thinking and the emotions that we're feeling and the physical state of our body. So point 6 is that gratitude strengthens resilience. So resilience is the ability to bounce back after a stressful experience, after difficulty, after pain, after loss. And a gratitude practice helps to strengthen that resilience, because people who practice gratitude tend to be able to look for solutions in problems, and they are also more aware of the fact that there's lessons to be learned in everything. So in whatever difficult situation you are in, you get through that situation. And then a person who practices gratitude, because they will have already had some experience of looking at maybe less joyful things that have happened to them and seen lessons that they've learned, they can get through their difficult times knowing that they're going to emerge stronger as a result. It improves your self-esteem, because when we start practicing gratitude for the world around us, it becomes a lot easier to be grateful for things that we ourselves are and do. Your gratitude practice must involve being grateful for yourself. And if it doesn't happen at first, gradually, as you get more used to looking for the good things in life, you will find that your gratitude practice starts to include yourself, as you start to see that you are actually creating this more positive reality for yourself. Gratitude leads to increased empathy. These points that I'm talking about, there has been research to show, they're all backed up by research, and I don't have the details of that research right now, but there is research to back all these up. I'm not just making these up. So gratitude has been shown to lead to increased empathy. So I suspect that that is probably because if you are able to look at a situation in a positive way, you are able to connect to how it feels for other people more, perhaps. I'm not sure what the mechanism would be that would lead to that, but I suspect that it's a very powerful growth path that you go on anyway. And on the subject of growth, greater personal growth, all of these things lead to, they all change us, becoming more optimistic, getting better sleep, and becoming more resilient, improving our self-esteem. They all lead to greater personal growth. And gratitude enables us to look for, as I've already mentioned, to look for the lessons in everything that happens to us, so we can find lessons in the things that happen to us in life. So how do we begin a gratitude practice then? There are lots of things that we can do to develop a gratitude practice. We can use a stone, a gratitude stone. So you get a stone, a nice pebble from the beach, or maybe something like an amethyst or a rose quartz stone, those nice, they've been smoothed and they're nice shapes. You could get one of those, any kind of stone, get your children to find you a stone, get your partner to find you a stone, get a stone that feels nice to hold. And you can have one that looks nice as well. If you like colour, you can get a colourful one. Get a stone that feels really good for you and keep it in your pocket. And throughout the day, every time you put your hands in your pocket and feel that stone, you will think of something to be grateful for. Now, I did this for quite a long time. My brother bought me a stone, a gratitude stone. And I kept this stone in my pocket for quite a long time. And I found throughout the day that I was just putting my hand in my pocket on purpose because I wanted that connection with the stone, because I wanted to have a moment of gratitude, and I found I was holding on to the stone. I was looking for the stone so that I could have the moment of gratitude, and it was quite a remarkable experience to actually be so aware all day long that I was looking for reasons to feel grateful. A gratitude diary, I think this is the most common thing that people do, is you get a notebook, or you have your phone, or whatever you would use to write little notes to yourself. And at the end, or at the beginning of the day, or throughout the day, whenever you feel a need to, you just jot down a few things that you feel grateful for. And it could be that it's the same thing. It could be that, you're writing the same things down every day. That really doesn't matter. The practice of writing down things to be grateful for means that eventually you will start to find that your list starts to grow, because you will find more and more things to write down. It's good to start the day with gratitude. It's also very good to end the day with gratitude. If you're about to go into a situation that's causing you some anxiety, stop and take a minute and just write down a few reasons to be grateful. It doesn't matter when you do it, it's just doing it. That's the thing. Whenever you need to do it, whenever works best for you, you take your diary and jot things down. A happiness jar is basically a gratitude diary in a jar. You just write down all the good things that happen to you as they happen. And what a lot of people do is they start it at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, in a bit of fun, or you can even turn it into a ritual. You open up the jar and you have a look at all the amazing things that have happened to you. If you want to express gratitude to somebody else, you could tell them, write a letter of thanks to somebody and send it to them. You could even write one to yourself. That would be fun to do, I think. You could live as if. So how would you live if everything was wonderful in your life? How would you live if you were really happy all day long? How would you live if You will live it exactly the way you want it to. Act as if. Act as if you feel really grateful for everything. And just see what happens. Step out into the world tomorrow as if your life is everything you want it to be. Just see how you feel. Savoring the moment. And we tend to rush through life. We just get on with, we do one thing and then we're on to the next thing. And then we stop and we'll just zone out on Facebook or TV for a little while. And then we're on to the next thing, on to the next thing. Stop and savor the moment. Just stop and be. And just experience the things that you're experiencing and really experience them. Especially if you're, walking somewhere, or you're with your children, or you're with your partner, or you're with your best friend, or you're doing something that you really enjoy. Just make sure that you're savoring that moment and really stop and think, how does this feel right now? What am I enjoying about this? What is the best thing about this? What do I love about this? And really savor how that feels for you. And things like, we can be aware of how our behavior is actually adversely affecting our attitude of gratitude. Try reducing your exposure to the news. Try and spend a week of not reading news headlines, or not listening to the radio news, not reading the papers. Newspapers don't put a great deal of positive news in their pages because apparently that doesn't sell. Now, I don't know if that's really the case, or if we've just been so conditioned to negative news that that's what we expect. I'm not sure. I don't think that we are such negative creatures by nature that we only want to know the bad things in the world. I don't know about you, but I would quite like to hear a lot more about a lot of the good things that are happening in the world. But if you don't get your paper for a week, don't look at the newspaper websites. Try and reduce gossip. Well, gossip is never ever positive. It's you don't tend to gossip in a positive way about somebody, mostly because you tend to gossip about somebody when they're not around. And I'm not talking about you personally, but that's the nature of gossip, is we wait until somebody else isn't around before we gossip about them. And that in itself is quite negative. So try and reduce gossip. Don't start gossip yourself. And if you somebody you're with starts to gossip, try and change the subject, or just tell them, I'm not gossiping this week. I don't want to have this conversation. Let's talk about something else. And then try and not complain for a week. Now, this would be quite a challenge, because if you try and not complain for a week, you would probably, the first thing you will notice is how many times you naturally, instinctively, without thinking about it, complain. It might just be, oh, I'm really tired this morning. I didn't have enough sleep. I don't want to get up. I want to go back to bed. Oh, the children are making too much noise. The children aren't getting up in time. Too much traffic on the road. My boss is annoying me. I wish that dog next door would stop barking. Whatever it is, we complain a lot, and we don't even realize we're doing it. I did once. I had to do a day without complaining, and that was quite a challenge. I did pick one of the most difficult days I could have. I picked the day Robin Williams died, which made it quite difficult not to feel sad and talk negatively. And I was doing the West Highland Way, and I got very cold and wet and had to walk a long, long way. But it was really interesting because I had to be so aware of my thoughts and try and change my negative thoughts. And it was challenging, but it's really worth doing, and I highly recommend that you think about one of these strategies. Just take one of them and try and incorporate that into, even if it's just for a day, just give it a day of practicing gratitude and see how you feel. Now I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and come back to me looking at you, and I hope that you were able to see that presentation. I didn't do proper slideshow because it didn't seem to work at all. So I hope it was okay for you and that you could see it fine. The last thing I wanted to talk about on the subject of gratitude is a practice called Pratipaksha Bhavanam, and I will put that in the email that I sent to you next to remind you, and I've also got a couple of blog posts to refer to, which I will send to you as well. Pratipaksha Bhavanam is the act of replacing the negative with the positive. So if you, for example, decided to do that day of not complaining, and this was what we had to do in our teacher training when we had to do this day of not complaining, you approach the day with the mindset of you're not going to complain, but you're going to because you're used to doing that. So whenever you became aware that you were complaining, you use this practice of Pratipaksha Bhavanam to replace the negative with the positive, or flip the negative into the positive. That's how I thought of it, just to turn it on its head. So when I was sitting by the banks of Loch Lomond early in the morning, and I just found out that Robin Williams, the comedian, had committed suicide, and I was absolutely devastated about this. I was really unhappy, and I sat there for 10 minutes. I was crying. I was really upset. And then I remembered that I was supposed to be doing this day of not complaining, and I was supposed to be doing the thing that replaced the negative with the positive. Well, I kind of reasoned that feeling upset was okay for a start, but then I thought, how can I get out of this negative state of mind I was in now? So instead of thinking about the fact that he had died, I chose instead to think about all the times I'd enjoyed watching the films he was in, the amount of times he'd made me laugh, what a gift he'd given to the world, and the amazing comedy that he'd put out into the world, and the beautiful acting when he was doing the more serious roles. And I just went through all this catalogue of amazing things that I'd seen Robin Williams in. And by the time I finished doing that, I actually felt quite happy in myself because I'd had a chance to reflect on funny moments of films and beautiful moments of films. And so I was thinking about the positives of his life instead of the tragedy of his death. And I think that was my first experience of this day of not complaining, and it was quite a powerful one. Later that day, I was on the West Highland Way. I was on my own. I was cold. I was very wet. I was absolutely exhausted after having walked for miles and miles and miles and miles. And I managed to keep that positivity going because I kept looking around. And every time I started to feel cold and wet and tired, I would look at the mountains and think, yeah, but look where you are. Look at these mountains. You're in Scotland. You're walking in Scotland. You're doing the West Highland Way and you're awesome. And I basically talked to myself the entire way around. So, you can, once you start to become aware, and this is where the awareness that we talked about on Monday comes into play. Once you become aware, once you start to become aware of what you're thinking, you can start to change it. So this is why awareness had to come before gratitude, because you're not going to notice what you're thinking until you started to become aware of it. So this awareness, this idea of becoming aware of what we're thinking is so important, and it takes time. You're not going to come away from these webinars suddenly being fully conscious of what you're thinking. I've been doing this for quite a few years now, and I get lost in my own head sometimes, and quite often. But it's that practice of noticing, and it might take you 3 hours before you notice you've been in a real funk for hours, and you don't know why, and you might suddenly realize it's because you thought about something that happened when you were 6 that you didn't like, and that really upset you 3 hours ago, and you haven't been right since because you've been dwelling on how much the school bully upset you when you were 6 or something like that. So it takes awareness for us to notice the patterns and the trains of thought that we go down, and to stop those trains of thought. And it's fine, it's fine for it to take time. we're here now. So with that attitude of santosha, of contentment, you can look at it and think, okay, I'm here now. Doesn't matter about the last 3 hours of feeling angry at the 6-year-old bully. I'm here now. I've noticed it. What can I do to feel better now? And thank you to the school bully for teaching me this lesson now, because, you know, even though that is teaching you a lesson. There is one final point that I wanted to make, and I feel I just heard footsteps coming from downstairs. Trying to do webinars at bedtime is not necessarily a good idea. But there's one thing which I actually haven't mentioned yet this week, and I meant to mention it to you on Monday, but I forgot. There were 3 rules at the start. When I started my yoga teacher training, my teacher told me that there were 3 rules of yoga. They're not in the Yoga Sutras or any of the ancient yoga texts. They were from Swami Gitananda, who's that guy behind me there. He's it's his teachings that I was trained in. So one of his rules were don't judge, don't compare, and don't beat yourself up. So whenever you're doing any of these sorts of awareness, whenever you're looking at yourself, whenever you're thinking about where you are now, what you're doing, how you're living, how you want to be, and you know, you're thinking about the gaps that exist between where you are and where you want to be. That contemplation should always come from a place of try not to judge. Try not to judge yourself. Try not to judge others, because there's nothing to be gained in either of those things. Don't compare. Don't compare yourself to others. And that applies to thinking you're better than them or thinking they're better than you. Either way, you don't come out well of that, because you're you and they are them, and you're completely different entities. It is literally like, you know, you are comparing completely different things. So you can't look at somebody else and think you should be like them or they should be like you, because you're you, they are them. Not the same people at all. So don't compare, and don't beat yourself up. So if you find yourself judging and if you find yourself comparing, don't beat yourself up about it, because you're human and it's fine. Just notice that you're doing these things. Try not to beat yourself up about where you've been. Try not to beat yourself up. You know, recrimination is only helpful if you use it as a springboard for change. If you're just going to use it to torment yourself, then it's really unhelpful and it's not serving any worthwhile purpose at all. So try not to beat yourself up. Try instead of looking at yourself harshly, try and look at how can you do this better. But don't beat yourself up. Look at how you can improve. Far more helpful way to approach things. And then in that, you can find gratitude for your mistakes, because if we don't learn. We humans do not learn unless we screw up. As a general rule, we learn our biggest lessons, at least. We do learn lots without screwing up, but we learn our biggest lessons and we get our biggest growth from the things that we maybe don't do as well as we'd like, or the complete disasters in a lot of cases. You know, I know in my own experience, I've definitely learned my biggest lessons from the times when I've looked back and thought, well, I never want to do that again. And you know, we learn through difficulty and we learn through mistakes. And so we should never beat ourselves up for our mistakes, because as long as you try really hard not to make that mistake again, then you're learning and you are growing and you are going to do better next time. And you might not get it right next time, so then you learn again and you learn, and there is so much to learn from mistakes and from things not working out the way you hope they would. So I'm going to love you and leave you now, and I will share in the Facebook group, but I'll also put in an email, which I will probably send to you in the morning. So I'll share a couple of blog posts on these topics that I've talked about today. And I will also make the slides available as well, so you can have that resource as well. The slides, I'll edit them a little bit because there's some stuff in them that isn't relevant to this particular conversation. So I will chuck all of that information into an email and into the Facebook group tomorrow morning. So I will see you tomorrow, and I can definitely hear your footsteps. So I am going to leave now. So have a lovely rest of the evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.